Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. And my guest today is somebody that I guess you could say was my first guitar hero. And that may sound strange, but one thing he showed is that to be a great musician, you have to write a great song. And few people have written more amazing songs than Graham Russell and his band Air Supply. They recently celebrated their 45th anniversary and played their 5,000th concert. They'll be hitting the road across the US this summer, starting right here in my home state of Connecticut. It's an honor to welcome Graham Russell. Welcome, Graham.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Wow, that's quite the introduction. I have to. I've never called a guitar hero before.
Well, to a 10-year-old kid hearing that, you definitely were.
Oh, thank you. Very kind. I have to live up to something now.
Yeah. And I mean, there's just so much to talk to you about, but let's start with this 45th anniversary that Air Supply celebrated last year. When you and Russell Hitchcock first got together while performing Jesus Christ Superstar in Australia back in 1975, did you have any idea that the partnership would be as long or as successful as it's been?
No, definitely not. I think our greatest ambition was probably to make a record that we could give to our grandchildren and maybe be together for a year or so, you know. But I mean, we're probably the two most unlikely people that would achieve any success. You know, I mean, I came from a little town in Nottingham in the center of England, a coal mining town, and Russell came from Melbourne, Australia. But as fate would have it, we were thrown together, and we've always thought it was predestined that we work together. And it happened for us with a lot of hard work. So we're very thankful for it, you know.
And early on, you know, for the Australian records, and even when you hit the American market with your fourth record, Lost in Love, there were fairly steady band lineups that you guys had. Was the original thought that Air Supply would have a steady band lineup, or was it always going to be you and Russell with a cast around you?
Right. Well, both actually. When we met, it was just Russell and I when we met in Jesus Christ Superstar. But you know, we needed a band, and we put a band together. And at that point, we said, well, let's have everybody involved in the whole thing. I mean, there really was no other way to keep musicians unless they were involved, you know. But and the band stayed the same for quite a few years. Then people started to drift away. So we thought it would be easier then for Russell and I to have the identity of the band, because it's very difficult to keep a band's identity if there's like 7 members, you know. So we said, let's make it easy. And so Russell and I mean, really, I was a songwriter and he was the voice. So it was an easy decision to make. And it became a part of the course after that, you know. It was easy for people to grab on to a face or 2 faces, kind of like a Hall & Oates or Simon and Garfunkel, if you like, you know.
And people may not realize it, but those early lineups, you guys had some amazing musicians. I mean, Mark McEntee and Jeremy Paul, who went on to form the Divinals. Robin LeMessurier, who was poached by Rod Stewart and played with Johnny Halliday. Did it give you some satisfaction seeing that these people you brought in branch out and really succeed?
It did, yes, it did. I mean, we've been very fortunate in our career to play with some great people. In Australia, we also played, one of the early guitarists was Rex Go, who's become a legend in Australia. But you're right, Mark McEntee was legendary too. His sound was really integral for our first album we ever made. It was his sound that just fitted so perfectly. So, and they all went on to do their thing, which they wanted to do. So I'm glad that we were a part of that and we were in that machine with them, you know.
And, you know, eventually the band caught the ear of Clive Davis at Arista Records, which led to Lost in Love and kicked off the amazing success in the US. And it's funny because when you look at that time in the 80s, I mean, it was, you know, the post-punk new wave movement. It was the seeds of rock and heavy metal. And here comes this Australian band with a totally different sound and vibe. I mean, were you surprised at how quickly it took off in America once it got here?
Uh, we both were very surprised. However, we started to play in 1976, and we had very quick success in Australia. So we kind of gotten used to it. One of our very first shows in Australia was on the steps of the Opera House to 90,000 people.
Wow.
So we kind of went to the School of Rock really quickly. We were in Superstar, which taught us a lot of things about theatre. Then we opened for Rod Stewart. We learned from Rod about how to be professional and how to handle an audience and really what to do on stage. So we were thrown together, and quickly we learned everything, because before that we didn't know anything. We didn't know what we were doing, but we just did it.
Yeah.
So we learned pretty quickly. So we had grown accustomed to quick success. Although after opening for Rod, we thought, oh yeah, hopefully we're going to break in America, but we didn't. And so we were brought back down to earth, and we had to start again. But it was very good for us. We got back in the trenches, and we had to work really, really hard to do things, which we did. And that's what we became really good at. We became very resilient. Even in those early years, people were they weren't very kind to us in the press, probably because of the music. The music was a lot of big ballads, and there was a little resistance, but nevertheless, we achieved success anyway, so it was great for us.
And those first three records, Lost in Love, The One That You Love, and Now and Forever, all went platinum in the US. They all had big hit singles, but it was really the greatest hits record that came after that, where it seemed like everything just exploded, and led by the new track on the record, Making Love Out of Nothing at All by Jim Steinman. And it's funny because that was a song that really, as an 11-year-old kid, really rocked my world and sent me down a Jim Steinman rabbit hole that, lasted my whole life. We recently lost Jim, but what are your memories of him and how that song came to Air Supply?
Well, it was Clive's idea. And, in 1983, Clive said, we need to put a greatest hits out. We'd only had 3 albums, and we've fought that. Russell and I said, no, a greatest hits is something you have after 15 or 20 years. We'd had 3 years, and Clive said, no, it's the right time. And he said, I want you to listen to this track, because it was a quick decision. And he said, I think this track would be great on the album too. And it was Jim's song, and it was quite long when we first heard it. And at that point, we weren't really doing anybody else's songs, but we weren't opposed to it. It was just the way it was. And plus, I think Russell, certainly at that point, he needed to sing other people's songs, not just mine, because his voice should be heard in all different kind of genres. So here's this song, Making Love Out of Nothing at All, that was a rock and roll song and a big epic ballad in true Steinman fashion. And I mean, the first time I heard it, I went, oh, wow, here's a genius Steinman song. And we had the chance to do it. We said, yeah, let's do it. And we met Jim in Rumpelmeyer's in New York. It's an ice cream shop. And we met him, and he's sitting in the corner, and he had these big leather gloves right up past his elbow. He was a really strange guy. And he had the hair and everything. But he was such a warm, affectionate person, not like the persona he gave off. Right. And we said, well, Clive gave us the song, and are you okay if we do? He said, yeah, it'd be great. And he produced it. We actually, after meeting him, 2 days later, we were in the studio, and he'd hired the E Street band, like Springsteen's band. And we were kind of in awe of those guys. And we went, whoa, And it's a funny thing happened, they got the track pretty fast. And then Russell went in to sing, and he knew the song. And I sat next to Jim at the console, and, Russell, they pressed play. And I said to Jim, make sure you press record, at the same time, instead of doing a few runs. Russell sang the song one time through, and Jim turned to me and he said, that was fabulous. And I said, yeah, I know. And he said, I think that's the take. I said, yeah, I think it is too. And that was it. It was one take.
Wow.
And, we listened back, and Jim was trying to listen to hear imperfections, and maybe he says, it's fabulous. There's something about when you get something one take, even though you can go back and get other takes, there's an energy in that one take when you can get it that you can't get, obviously, on other takes. There's just an energy, and it's a fire and a passion. And Russell had that, and it was just incredible to hear it. I mean, I was used to it. He sang The One That You Love first take too. And I mean, in those days, that's how you recorded,
right.
Everything was live. There were no tuning machines in those days.
You didn't need them.
Yeah, and you sang a song from top to bottom, and the way it was. And if your voice gave out, it gave out, but you had to be prepared and to get in the trenches. But that was a great moment in my personal history of working with Steinman. And we kept in touch after that. And, he's just a genius. And you talking about his rabbit hole, I was already down there because I was a big Meatloaf fan, and his stuff was so theatrical and just a unique songwriter that I was very privileged to meet,
No, without a doubt. And then coming off the success of that greatest hits record is the Self-Titled record. And I don't think that record gets the attention it deserves. I mean, it features Bob Ezrin and Dick Wagner of, Alice Cooper, Kiss, and Lou Reed fame. Wally Stocker of the Babies, Billy Steinberg, who wrote massive 80s hits like True Colors and Like a Virgin, Eternal Flame.
Yeah.
And again, you mentioned working with the E Street Band on Making Love Out of Nothing at All, but another song that started a lifelong obsession for me is your cover of Sandy, 4th of July, Asbury Park. And first of all, how did all of those people come together on that record? But second, how did you end up picking that Springsteen song? Because it's funny, for the longest time, I thought he was covering you when I finally first heard his version.
Right. That was Clive. I mean, to be quite honest, I'd never heard the song before. And Clive had a way of saying things. If he said, have a listen to this song, if you would want to cover it, we weren't really into covering songs at that point, I mean, we were kind of new and we had a lot of songs anyway. But if Clive said that to you, he was saying, why don't you cover this song? So we covered it, but it was a cool song, and it was a Springsteen song. I mean, and who doesn't like Springsteen? So the problem with it, it's all about the boardwalk in in New York or New Jersey, and we'd never even been there, so it was a bit weird. We felt that we were kind of betraying people a bit because we'd never. However, it was cool, and we went with the flow. And we got to work with Bob Ezrin, and all these great people, and it was very cool to be in the studio with these legendary people. It really was, and but I agree that album didn't get the credit it deserved. But we'd had incredible success, and at that point we thought, oh, maybe the tide is turning. We weren't. We didn't think, oh, we should have more success. We'd had plenty to last a lifetime. So we were fine with it. And plus, at that point, it was all about the music and making great music and working with great people. I mean, Bob Ezrin was, he was already a legend with his Pink Floyd and then his association with U2. So it was great for us, and we loved it. We just went along for the ride,
Yeah, and around that point, we did see the musical winds start to shift. And even though you guys kept putting out strong records, over the next few years, I mean, like The Vanishing Race and Across the Concrete Sky, those big hit singles weren't there anymore, but the live audience always was. And
Yeah.
is there a frustration at all when you're writing and recording really strong material? I mean, even your last record in Mumbo Jumbo in 2010, and evolving the band and its sound beyond, just those love songs,
Yeah.
but you're not getting that same level of airplay or commercial success?
That's true. I mean, at first, it was a bit strange because we got used to so much airplay.
Mhm.
I mean, we were still getting the airplay, but it was all the old songs.
Yeah.
And that was an era. It was a time, and that time had changed for us, and we had to come to grips with it. And once we did, it was okay, because for us, we really love playing live, and our audience has been there for 5 decades now, and I think they always will be. And as long as we put out albums that mean something to us, they're going to mean something to the fans. And you mentioned The Vanishing Race, which I thought was a great record.
Yeah.
And on there we worked with Umberto Gatica, who was the most famous engineer in the world at the time, and he was wonderful. And we worked with David Foster on Goodbye. So we were still making great music. And plus, at that point, we could do whatever we wanted. We just felt that it was time for us to just make records. And if we wanted to make a record, we'd make one. There was no pressure or anything. Yeah, there was no pressure with anything at all. But all we wanted to do was concentrate on our live show, to have a great show, and to entertain people. That's what it became all about for us,
And that's still really what it is. I mean, your last record, 2019's Lost in Love Experience, that you did with the Prague Symphony Orchestra, I mean, it shows that you guys just rock live. I mean, the guitars are front and center. It's a high energy, and I think that people that just know you from, the 80s stuff they hear on the radio would really be surprised at the energy you guys bring to a live show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we put a lot of thought into our live show, and it's a rock and roll show. And it's funny because when people see it for the first time, they expect something else. They expect something other than what it is. And I can see it on their faces. And I'll point to them. I'll say, "You've never seen us before." And they go, "Oh, okay." I mean, it's loud and it's passionate, and it's just got something, and people are laughing and crying in the audience. And that's what it's all about. It's take people on a ride with their emotions. And, I mean, that particular album with the Prague Symphony, we'd always wanted to make that record. And it became available to us. And the guy that turned us on to the Prague Symphony, he said, well, they have a window, and the window is a certain time, a 2-week window. And he said, do you want to take it? I said, yeah, I want to take it. And we made everything work, and funnily enough, the songs just came alive again with those guys. I think because our music over the years has become, it's always so classical. It's very orchestra friendly. It always has been. And that was the peak for us. I don't know if we could make another orchestral record that would be as good as that. Right. It's, and being in the studio there in Prague, we recorded in the studio where the soundtrack to Lawrence of Arabia was recorded, for instance, in 61 or 62, and all this history. And I just sat in this massive room, and I remember sitting in the middle of the room the day before all the players came in, and all the instruments were there, and there were timpanis and gongs from the 60s, and it was just incredible. And the actual console was from the 60s, and it was like, something out of Abbey Road. And but wow, the sound when they played, I was just in heaven. I thought, I've arrived. This is it now. So I don't know. It's going to be hard to top that moment.
Now, you and Russell never really got to celebrate the band's 45th anniversary with your fans on the road. So will that sort of be the theme of the upcoming tour?
It is, yeah, it is. And it's our gratitude to the fans for bringing us here, because really it's all about them, and over the years, our fans have have always been there, and they've stuck with us through thick and thin, and through personal things that Russell and I go through individually. They just stick with us, and they're always there. So we're going to hope to give back on this tour. We haven't played we've played 1 or 2 shows, but nothing like we're going to. Yeah. And so we're going to give everything back now and prove to people that we've still got what it takes, because we can't wait to get out and play again.
Yeah. And the music industry's changed a lot in your 45 years.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any interest right now in writing and releasing new Air Supply music? And if so, I mean, are you looking to do kind of singles for the digital market, or a full record, or any thoughts on that?
We're starting to talk about that now. It is a long time between records for us, but I think we'll probably just release single tracks for the moment, because it has changed so much. I don't know if people buy CDs anymore. I know they do for like Taylor Swift or U2, but we're not on that level. But for a band on the level that we're at, I think the single releases is going to be the thing for us, but we're getting ready to record.
Okay. Can't wait. And we've been spending some time here with Graham Russell of Air Supply. The band's about to kick off their now 46th anniversary tour, thanks to the pandemic. The shows kick off July 18th right here in Connecticut. I will definitely be there cheering you guys on. And we have dates throughout the summer into the fall. All that is up on the website. And Graham, I can't thank you enough for taking some time to do this today. It's been a pleasure going through your history with you, and look forward
Jeff,
to the show.
You. I can see your guitar here. Are they all your guitars in the back?
They are. I build a lot of them myself, and keeps me busy. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for the opportunity, Jeff. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
And we'll see you on July 18th.
Yeah, come and say hello. Now I know what you look like.
Definitely.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Graham.
Bye-bye.
Bye.